And welcome back. You're listening to UWO Now. I'm your host, Wendell Ray, and today we're talking with UWO Chancellor Andrew Leavitt, who's been talking to us today about some national trends and issues, opportunities, challenges that many campuses across the United States face. And we were talking at the break about student debt and the announcement in August from President Biden about debt relief, and you had some more thoughts on that.
Yeah, two things I think really to kind of close that out. I took out student loans when I was a student, and I paid them back. My 3 adult children went to college and took out student loans, and they paid theirs back. And I would just tell you one thing, all 4 of us support the idea of providing some debt relief. And again, I think that the numbers that have been used are in the right neighborhood in terms of clearing up a lot of the problem. If you have really large debt in a medical school, law school, kind of MBA kind of debt, clearly $10,000 isn't going to be the number that really moves the needle, but it's going to be so helpful to a lot of young graduates. And I would rather see if we can free them from the obligation of debt in order to really drive things in our economy. And I realize the moral hazard here that I paid for mine, therefore you should pay for yours. But I think that we need to look beyond that, because it'll benefit everybody in the end if we get more economically prosperous. And one last thing, there was a big announcement this last month from the UW system. This is President Jay Rothman, and really one of his first big initiatives since becoming president, is extending what was called Bucky's Promise, Bucky's Tuition Promise, to the entire state through the comprehensive. It's the Wisconsin Tuition Promise, where we would provide the last dollar in on tuition and fees, which is, again, very helpful. It'll reduce the amount of debt that's necessary for students to accumulate. So I really do applaud him and the regents for doing that. So I just wanted to finish on those 2 items, something that's very positive.
What's going on here at UWO? What are some things that you're planning for? What can we expect in this academic year? And I know there's another challenging or planning stage that you're going on, looking toward the future. Hasn't been announced yet. But what are some things we can talk about that's going to be happening this year at UWO?
Right, I love this time of year. It's just my favorite time of year, and then I like to see everybody as a pennant winner, it's just optimism is always high at the beginning of a year, and we have a great group of students coming in. We got a strong first-year class coming in. Overall enrollment is going to be down a little bit, and that's simply because of the retention issues that we continue to have, and I think that's somewhat impacted by COVID. But it's also a national trend. It's the participation rate in college these days is dropping. There is a notion out there that a 4-year degree just isn't worth the time and expense, and I couldn't disagree with that more. I've realized my inherent conflict in that statement, but just if you look at the earning potential and the ability for a higher level of self-determination in what you do in your life, there's an undergraduate degree is something that's it's certainly going to increase the likelihood of that happening. Anyone can exceed from anywhere in life. There's no question that we have the Bill Gates of the world and others who didn't finish college but obviously did very well. But it's about probability, and you increase your probability of doing well with the more education that you have. So we're going to work on retention. So what is retention? That's keeping students from their freshman year and having them return their sophomore year. And one of the things we're really excited about this year is we have hired 8 individuals to join some other individuals on our campus who will be called navigators. And we'll take that first year class and we're going to divide them up amongst these navigators. And these navigators are going to keep close tabs, are going to keep in contact with the students during the course of the year, making sure that they get connected to the services they need in order to be academically as well as co-curricularly and socially successful. We want students who are going to thrive here, and we want to be able to help them in that. Other than that, of course, we have the Big Dig here on campus. If you've tried to get through the UWO Oshkosh campus in recent months, you'll find that you're detoured because Algoma Boulevard is undergoing a complete renovation, all new utilities, sewer, storm drains, everything. And we anticipate that will be back open in about 4 weeks. They finally got the road in, but we're working on the sidewalks. A little concerned about the sidewalks because I'll have 10,000 people back on campus and it'll rain, and people will be walking in mud. So we're working hard with the company for that, for the crossings. So they will do that. Just had some fantastic academic successes on campus in terms of grantsmanship. Our faculty, of course, are research active. They're responsible for publishing in journals and getting grants. We've had 3 large grants that have brought in a month within the last month that are about $4.6 million. Excuse me, $3.6 million. I got ahead of myself there. Okay. $3.6 million. So it's a big number, and one that we certainly, it doesn't surprise me, but I'm always pleased when it happens. We also had the debut of the Titan Titan Thunder Marching Band.
Yeah.
And that's just off the charts in terms of the level of excitement that we have right now.
Why is that a big deal? Could you explain and let everyone know? I understand it, but why is it a big deal? Why to have a marching band on your campus?
It's a big deal for a number of reasons. The number one reason why it's a big deal is related to enrollment. That marching band for many years has been the most requested activity from students that we don't offer. So that's known in the admissions office. That's known by web traffic to the search terms used, and for instance, hitting our Department of Music page. It's just known in terms of that's just a big community piece that we're missing. So I certainly was committed to starting a marching band for the 8 years. I'm in my 8th year, going to start my 9th year in November. And working with enrollment management, we certainly had built a case as to why we needed to start a marching band. And then there's the school spirit element of it. Aside from the retention this will cause, when students join the marching band, they have an instant family. And so they work together, they play together, they eat together. Right now they're in band camp, so they're very much together.
It's like a team.
It's a team, yeah, like any other. And so it's if you look at what happened last spring, we did a precursor of the Titan Thunder Marching Band with our great director Joe Shivert, who we hired away. We hired him away from Georgia. He came and started the Titan Bolt Band, which is a basketball band. And if you've been to a basketball game at UWO Oshkosh starting last year, that's a completely different environment than it used to be. It's much more collegiate. You feel like Dick Vitale's about to poke his head up at any minute. It just has the look and feel of a great college basketball game, which we have great basketball teams, so it was only fitting.
It's important, and I understand it. Having a band play the fight song and that kind of thing, it helps not only with that energy that you're talking about, but it kind of instills some pride, as you mentioned, and it helps with current students. It helps with alumni to kind of provide something that they all can share in.
Absolutely. And an extension really of athletics in that way. We have big front porches. We have the arts. We have great arts here. And, this radio station, for instance, is a part of that big front porch. And so this is going to be a welcome extension, which leads me to, of course, Titan Athletics, which is just so fun. We have great teams, great programs. Our students do well academically. They do well in competition. We're coming off a national championship in gymnastics last year. Men's basketball and women's had a very good years last year. And of course, we have the introduction of our new football coach. We have a coach, Peter Jennings, is now firmly in control of that football program. I took him to a Rotary meeting on Wednesday, and he just blew the roof off of that place in terms of his level of enthusiasm and his energy. And And my comment to the group was that we'll make him available to run your company in the off season if you would like, because he's just really, really great. So September 3rd, if this airs prior to September 3rd, that would be great. If it doesn't, that's fine. But we'll play East Texas Baptist at 1 o'clock at Titan Stadium, and it'll be the debut of the marching band as well as our new football coach.
Well, it won't.
Okay, all right.
But we'll be there. The station will be there to capture all of that fanfare and the game itself. But you mentioned that you took the coach to see the Rotary Club here in Oshkosh. Talk about the university's relationship with the community here. I know I went to a college that was basically the town, and you want to make sure that a university has good relationships with the community where it resides, and it's important for a number of reasons. One of which is you want to make sure they know they are welcome to attend the university. But tell us about how you feel about UWO's relationship with the Oshkosh community.
Well, I think it's strong, and I'll tell you this: that when I first applied for this position 8 or 9 years ago, what attracted me to UW Oshkosh more than anything was the fact that it was a large, comprehensive institution ensconced in a busy, bustling, great place. So I want you to think about where a lot of colleges and universities tend to be located. They tend to be that one big entity within a community. Even you can think here in Wisconsin about that. Here, we're ensconced in the middle of the city, in the center of the city. A beautiful location on the Fox River, and we are a part of a region that provides unparalleled opportunity for our students and our faculty and our staff. We can offer or require internships, for instance, in a whole host of disciplines, and most notably in the College of Business, because we are ensconced in a huge region where there's a lot of commerce, business, manufacturing, and then all the other ancillary industries that go with that, healthcare, banking, you name the industry, and we have it really in great quantity here in this region. So this is a city that recognizes the value and impact of this university. I definitely feel that, and I know that from my interactions with the city leaders and the county leaders here. And at the same time, we could not do it without them. We couldn't be the kind of university that we are, and we really are striving to be, without the kind of community connections that we have and that will continue to grow.
Just one or two more questions that I have for you, but I'm going to have to stop it right now here on 90.3 WRST. But to hear the rest of our conversation, listen to our podcast. Today's episode will be available soon on all your favorite podcasting platforms, and you can also go to the UWO YouTube page and watch today's episode as well as past episodes. Remember, we're here every other Thursday on 90.3 WRST-FM and with a new episode of UWO Now. I'm your host, Wendell Ray. We hope you join us again, and thanks for listening. So, Chancellor, one or two other questions for you. One is, how does someone in your seat measure success? How do you know if you're getting it done?
That's hard. And well, in some ways, when I go to a commencement, for instance, and we're graduating 2,000 students that year, then it's very visual, and of course I play a small part in that. It's our faculty and it's our staff and it's everybody else who's moved the students to those points. But to see families experience one of the more joyous moments of their lives by accomplishing something like a undergraduate or graduate degree is really, really fulfilling. A lot of things are quantified. Of course, we have numbers that we look at in terms of student success and where they can. We are always striving to improve those. Comprehensive institutions it's not a place like Madison where they have very high student success numbers. A student who goes to Madison typically is somebody who's going to be very well academically prepared, tests well. When they go, they are on a mission to get through in the 4 years. We have the kind of student here at UW Oshkosh Oshkosh that will start and stop out. And that's okay. Obviously, we would prefer that people finish in 4 contiguous years because that's the cheapest way, the least expensive way to do college is it's about eliminating the number of months that you're in school. But we certainly understand people have busy and complicated lives, and we are quickly adapting to meet the needs of more non-traditional learners. That was actually one of the few positives of COVID, if you will, that came out in that way. So I think that is a real metric that we're going to be keeping our eye on. But most days it's it's like anything else that one does. If you don't complete a task in a single day, sometimes it's hard to see the progress, but the progress is there.
We talked at the beginning of the show today about today's student, meeting the challenges of today's student, making sure that the university and universities should be approaching this the same way, but specifically here at UWO, I know you want to make sure that we are doing things that address the needs of students, today's students. What do you think that the future looks like, immediate, distant future for education on a college campus?
I think that a school like ours, again, a comprehensive, schools like ours, they educate about 60% of Americans. They go to schools just like ours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because of the flexibility that and the lower cost that we can offer. And they get a very, very high quality education out of it. There's going to be a greater distribution of the way students consume higher ed. And the notion of students going away for college is actually, in my opinion, diminishing. That students are much more likely to stay local, particularly if they want to have a really good college experience. They certainly want to grow as a person, but at the same time, they want to make sure they're leading with skills that will help them get a good job and have a great career. So I think we're going to be more focused in on the variety of the kinds of students that we're going to be serving, I should say, over the next years and decades to come, as they definitely change. So that's different modalities of teaching. Online will become certainly a much more significant part of what we do. Certainly online is not new, but there were techniques that were perfected during COVID, like high flex, and other kinds of mixed modality learning.
And I was going to ask, we talked about COVID earlier, excuse me for interrupting, but there was a lesson to be learned during that period, right? And let's apply the successes that we had. And because students, some didn't like online, but some students are okay with that.
Right. And as a matter of fact, right now we're offering a new suite of programs called UWO Plus. These are 7 or 8 different programs we're offering initially, and they are 7-week semesters. They're highly condensed, online. It's at a special price point to make them more affordable. And we're really going aggressively after those people who simply cannot physically attend a bricks and mortar college or university. And that's a greater percentage of our population as we go on each year.
Okay. Chancellor, thanks so much for coming by and talking to us today. It's been a great conversation. Good luck to you and the rest of the administration as you steward this campus into the future. Thanks again for coming by and talking to us.
Well, Wendell, thank you. It was a pleasure, and I'd love to come back anytime.
Okay, thanks a lot. You've been listening to UWO Now. I'm your host, Wendell Ray. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope to hear from you again.